So hey everybody, this is the Ask the Sensei Q&A webinar for October 2nd, 2019. I'm Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo here in Burbank, California. We are a full training voiceover program. It's like going into full training for voiceover. We're here to guide, guide, support, connect, and accelerate you every step of the way from I don't know to working pro. That's what we do here. We are joined each month by our techno sensei, Dan Lenard, the home studio master. He is here. And each month we have a fantastic guest sensei, one of our esteemed, beloved colleagues from our voiceover community, and we are very happy to have Rebecca Davis joining us today. I call her the heart of the voiceover community, and we'll be talking a little bit about that. Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about you and what you're up to?
Sure. I am the home studio master. Been doing this for 15 years. What I do is I teach people how to set up home studios properly. In other words, don't listen to a word you read on Facebook. Don't listen to geeks. Get it right the first time. There's no processing out there that's going to change anything. So, and I'm available at homevoiceoverstudio.com, and of course with Tish over at the VO Dojo.
Yeah. Efficient, effective, economical is Dan's sort of things. Yay! So he's always here on this call to answer tech questions and other questions. And Rebecca, my dear, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to? And I'd like to chat a little bit about some of the projects you're working on, and then we'll start taking your questions. So type in your questions, and we'll keep on chatting until there's questions. Otherwise, I'll just keep on asking questions. So, but that's how I've gotten where I am. I just keep on asking questions. So, all right. So, Rebecca, you just got back from Hawaii, which is awesome.
Yes. And I unplugged. I told my agents, you can send me auditions, but I probably
but I'm not going to do that.
That is to have that for a little while. I think that's pretty important sometimes. But I guess about myself is such an open-ended question. I come from an acting background. I started when I was a little kid. Went to college for it in Texas, originally from New Jersey, and then found my way out here to grad school to get my master's in acting, and been doing a lot of stage since then throughout this whole period, a little bit of film, and then kind of had a realization through a series of events and doing the artist's way that I'm happiest doing voiceover. So why am I putting all this energy into on camera, which is great, and some people love that. For me, it was not. I just wasn't into it. So I just took all my time and energy and money and put it into what I loved, and everything took off from there. That's a real short version.
And you have been breaking like ceilings, and you've been trailblazing in the trailer world. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. As most of you know, women aren't very prominent. Melissa Disney was the one that broke that ground with Gone in 60 Seconds, and we always talk about her, and she's great. And Randy Thomas and Rebecca Reedy and Kay Bass, and like so many people kind of breaking in the promo world, but not a lot of trailer stuff. And I got this opportunity for, oh my God, I'm totally blanking on the movie all of a sudden. It's horrible.
Come on, get it together, Beck.
Oh my God. For John Goodman's last film. And was nominated, the first woman in over a decade, nominated for a Golden Trailer Award, which is kind of like the trailer, the Oscars for the trailer industry, the Don LaFontaine Voiceover Award. So it's a really exciting time. have that, to break exactly that glass ceiling. And for, especially I think for our side, for all the clients and the trailer houses and the audiences, or in the audience that day and people watching, it showed them like, hey, you can use us too, and we break new ground and sound different. No offense to you men, but you know, it needs to get out there more. There needs to be more of that, I think.
Yeah.
It's been an exciting year.
Yeah, and then you also you've also been making doing amazing things with women in animation here in LA. I'm not sure if that affects everybody. Is women in animation just here in LA, or is it everywhere?
No, yeah, it's everywhere. There are some actual groups in New York, and I think Vancouver's starting one, physical ones, but people from anywhere can join online, and then they have access to past panels and other events that they've been taping a lot more lately, so people can still participate, I guess, and still get the educational side of things. I think it's only $50 a year, but if you're in LA, then you get to go to film screenings and get to see things live.
Good things on the DreamWorks campus and stuff.
Yeah.
I watched Rebecca create something. It was a thing. It's been a thing. But before Rebecca came, it was kind of a thing, like a party that you'd go, okay, great, thanks. That was a nice party. Like, it was kind of a dud. And then Rebecca has come in, and it's vibrant, and it's of the moment and bringing people together. And so if you're interested in animation, wherever you are, women in animation is a great thing. And then wanted to ask you too about the postcard project that you're doing, and then tying that into a little segue, because I'd love to open up questions. I'd love to open up this session, guys, and open your heart, because we're here answering questions like, hey, how do you get an agent, or what microphone should I get, which are all super valid things. One of the things that I think both the dojo, I know the dojo is based in the internal training and the work that you need to do on yourself, and sort of the emotional, psychological aspects of being a working pro. And Rebecca, I know you have a lot. I know a lot of your actions are very heart-based when you talk about the Postcards project. And also that you are very open with the heart and the soul part of this work. So you can share a little bit about that, and we'll get some more questions here. Questions, guys? Oh, here, actually, let me put out to you guys while Rebecca's sharing. What right now are you finding the most challenging psychologically, emotionally, from a soul-based level in your work? And this applies to if you're just starting out, just thinking about it, or like us, you've been doing it forever, right? That it's been a part of your life for a really long time. It's something we all deal with. So I would love to invite you to open up to that vulnerability, and we'll open up there. And then if you have questions about mics and everything else, we can also take those questions. But go ahead, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think what you're saying about the vulnerability part, I think that's really important. We kind of talk about the peaks and valleys of our career, and on social media and word of mouth and everything, we're always sharing these amazing things that happen, which is great. Like, I'm cheerleader for my friends and my colleagues, and like, yeah, I'm not going to curse right now, but yeah, we celebrate each other, but people don't often talk about when they're in slumps, when they're not working, when they've been replaced on something. And I understand why why some people don't talk about that.
Right.
I understand that. But I think it's important in the aspect of knowing you're not alone. That, when I started thinking about this, I started doing interviews with all different sorts of voice actors, from big people like to people just starting out, and talk to them about, what are the challenges you face? What happens? What do you do to overcome those valleys when you've come from a peak? And, and I've shared with people, and I'll share it here, is that this kind of came from me having like one of the best years. I had this amazing year. I was like, yes, we're going to keep going. Followed by the worst year of me going, what am I doing? Should I just walk away? Is this, but knowing in my heart, like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then the next year was better than the other year. And it just does that. 1 month is crap. The next month is good. But it's so hard because you see everybody online working all the time or making it feel like they work online. And I'm not attacking anybody who does that by any means. I've done it, you know, but it's important to know that that happens to everybody. Every single person has gone through that more than you even think. And I think it's really important during that time. There are ways to take care of yourself, you know, with your job and emotionally. And I agree with you, Tish, like the soul, I think it's so important to take care of that, because if you're all blocked up, then it goes into your reads.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I'm all about like feeling the feels is what I call it. Like when you know, without like wallowing too long, but like when you're in the dumps, like acknowledge you're in the dumps. It's okay. And you know, like therapy is great. I have no problem saying that. You know, you need to talk to someone. Like,
and
reach out to your friend.
The more that we can look at this holistically, right? In some ways, yes, it's technically we're just saying words, but really, you know, the foundational principle of the VO Dojo is that voiceover is communication, and communication is an exchange of vibrational energy. So if you have stuff going on, there is a chance that is going to be inflected into the work. And so how do you create a practice? So like this was not the easiest morning para mí. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of feels going on. And then, you know, you come and you do this. And if I had auditions to fit in this morning, I would have stepped into the booth, created my Zen bubble, and went, boom, what does this piece of copy need from me right now? I will go into my heart. I will say, this is what it needs. Boom. And then I'd open the door again and be like, okay, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's, I'm really digging this word practice as, you know, that as a person, you can have your yoga practice, right? And then as a doctor or a medical practitioner, right? You have your medical practice. So we have our voiceover practice, both internal training and our business, our practice. So that's an interesting thing. Talk about the postcards. And guys, seriously, do you know where your question and answer button is? It's in the middle there. It's in the middle there on the bottom. There we go. Okay.
Q&A.
Q&A. Awesome. Good. So talk about the postcards, and then we'll get to some questions.
Thank you for letting me talk about this. And this kind of ties into the taking care of yourself and getting through those peaks and valleys. I'm a huge proponent of giving back. It's huge. It's huge for the world. It's huge for yourself. It helps. Other quick thing, if you live in Los Angeles, look up Young Storytellers Foundation. It's amazing. You just do 8 weeks, 1 hour a week with these students, and at the end they have a script, and I go into that one forever. But if you think of giving back, you can do it that way, and it fills my heart. So after it started with El Paso after the recent tragedy, and then Dayton, I felt like I needed to do something. And I could donate money, but where does that go? I wanted to do something tangible for people. And I'd heard a story about a girl who was afraid to leave her house because she thought the world was full of bad people now. And this was a girl in El Paso. And so I just got this idea of like, let's send postcards, something physical that people can touch and see that says you're loved, or I'm thinking about you, people are supporting you. And then it blew up from there, trying to find out from El Paso, getting the school system on board, I got the neighborhood council to open up a P.O. box so people could send the postcards there and they would distribute them to the communities. Then it opened up to Dayton schools, and then the district in Dayton where it happened, getting it to their neighborhood, and all the the restaurants and the bars, and it just blew up, which has been an amazing thing to see. It started as a small little idea, and then putting out to Facebook, hey, does anyone want to design postcards? And the influx of people, top designers, Miranda Parkin, like other people, Helen B in the UK designed these postcards for people to download, or they could buy their own and send them. And it's working. It's working. And the people have been writing back to me. And it's not just for the victims, the people that were hurt. It's for the whole community. Because a whole community, and this is not political, this is not religious, this is not anything like that. It is purely humankind. And, you know, the members of this community have been reaching out via the people who've been distributing and saying it's changed their spirits.
Yeah.
And I won't get for yeah.
I love how that is also us putting our voice into the world to facilitate other people being heard, or, you know, or being seen, you know, like that exchange of, this is my voice and I hear and see your voice. It's really powerful.
It's 100%. And I'm encouraging people, like, yeah, this one thing happened 2 months ago. You can still send postcards a year from now. You know?
Yeah, and just I saw something that yesterday was the anniversary of 2-year anniversary of another giant shooting, and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh my God, how did oh, good.
I just added that to the Facebook group. I added addresses of
yeah, and that, you know, that's like
tragedies that happened a few years.
We have people in our own voiceover community who. Yeah, and someone in our voiceover community's daughter was there and was shot. So so that's cool. Do you want to type in? I'm going to start building questions. Yeah, that's Nico Mana's daughter was there. Yeah, yeah. So, Rebecca, can you type in the chat how people can connect with Postcards, and we'll have that, and then we'll reiterate it at the end, and then I'll start answering some questions here, and keep the questions coming, guys. There we go. So let's answer. Charles has a really like foundational tech question, Dan. So, but it's a really important one because it's one that people starting out always have, and I think the answer to the question sets up your entire relationship with tech from the very beginning. So, take it away. The snowball question, Dan.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. When it comes to tech, guys, it's a matter of keeping it simple. You don't need to spend a lot of money to get going, but that doesn't mean go cheap. And the question about the snowball is what's your opinion on a blue snowball for entry level? My cheapo special lasted about 8 weeks and then died last week. Well, the snowball is an interesting microphone, but it's a USB microphone. If you want something to practice with, if you want something to learn how to set initial input levels with, it's okay for that. You'd never be able to get away with using it for production, despite the fact what some people would say, at least not on a level I think most people want to get at. It's versatile, but it really was not designed for the professional level stuff that we do as voice actors. You really want to have a good studio condenser mic and a good interface. When you integrate them, unless you're spending a fair amount of money for a good USB mic, you want to be able to have something that's not going to be a problem. There's inherent problems with USB mics, and that is that they're noisy. And that adds problems later on. What we want to do when you start out and continue on is have a very quiet input, something that doesn't produce its own noise. The only noise you want to hear is the noise of your voice, but not the noise that's not your voice. It's sort of what we call the signal is your voice, everything else is noise. So you want to get rid of the everything else. The snowball is going to add to that. And if you're doing podcasts or something like that, where it's not quite as critical, yeah, you can get away with it. But for voiceover, I wouldn't start with a snowball. I would start with something a little bit more substantial, and learn how to use it. A good studio condenser mic that's not $500. If you start at like $150, you probably will be fine. And then get a reasonably good interface like a Focusrite 2i2 or Solo. There's a bunch of other ones as well. Don't get obsessed with the tech stuff, because it's not the tech that gets you work. It's your ability to look at copy, figure out who it is you are and who you're talking to, and making that connection with the copy later on. Because if you start to obsess about the microphone, you're going to, first off, it's like, oh, there's a microphone there. Get rid of that idea. Get that out of your head. And set up properly in the first place, and then forget about it.
Right.
It's simply, it's like having a cassette recorder. Hit record, go.
Right, and I think this idea of keeping it simple, and then the other thing that Dan, you always say is you work to the equipment. The equipment doesn't get you the work, right? That's in a nutshell there. And so
exactly. You don't work. Yeah, you don't get great equipment to get work, essentially.
Yeah, and then you want to look at it as an evolutionary process. So understand where your budget is and what you're starting with, and then it will evolve. You will have two mics, and then you can sell the other mic if you don't need it. You can use one as your travel mic. Now, in terms of good USB mics, we have an opportunity coming up in Los Angeles in I think October 23rd is the date. The dojo has been invited to invite people hasn't been invited to do a demonstration at Apogee Studios in Santa Monica. So we'd love to have you join us if you're there. And I'm gonna see what we can do about streaming. I think it might be a little complex, but we've got about 30 spaces for people to come join us. My friend who works there is the team there is going to show us around their studios and do a demonstration of their entire line of microphones. And they're pretty affordable and pretty darn good, and they do interfaces as well. And everybody who's there is going to get 20% off. So if you are interested in that, email me. I think there's a link, but I'm not sure what it is. So email me at apogee@thevodojo.com if you're in LA and want to do that. And if you're not in LA and want to do that, let me know as well. This is October 23rd, 11 a.m. in Santa Monica. So that's coming up. Yeah, so that's an interesting. Is that helpful, Charles? I have to say that I have a 416 now, like a $1,000+ mic now, but I didn't have it until, I don't know, 4 years ago. I've been working with a $400 mic at my home studio for a long time. You don't have to get the fancy pants things right away. And then you don't have to, think that you're not worth it, but earn the money to get the fancy pants. Like have their business prove that this is something that you should be investing in, right? Otherwise you can sell your fancy pants thing to the next person coming up when you decide that it's not for you. Awesome. Let me see what's going on here. So next question. Why is this? Oh, here we go. Awesome. Matt has a question. Oh yeah, Matt. Here we go. Okay. Matt's been at this for a couple of years, have a couple of agents, getting some clients from auditions, but would like to pick up more regular work. Would like to learn how to get into promos for TV stations or cable network promos, and even radio stuff, which I know is a little bit different. Okay. Excellent. So let's open this up. So there's two questions here, right? One is in general, how does one generate more work? And then specifically, how does one start approaching getting into the promo world? Thoughts?
promo is very specific, and I'm speaking from a place where I've only done trailers and a little bit of promo, so I can't really, I put that out first. I'm not the end all all. But from what I know of my friends and colleagues that have broken into the promo world, is it starts with training and a demo, because they don't really know what you can do. And I know a lot of people whose agents have said, well, if you want to be doing this, then I need a demo. Some people might disagree with me on that. But it's such a specific niche, however you want to pronounce it, that requires a different skill set. So I think studying it first and making sure it actually is something you want to do and can excel at is ultimately the first step. And I wonder to Matt, have you spoken with your agents about your desire to do that yet? Do they even know that that's on the radar for you? Would be my follow-up question. What are your thoughts?
I think also where are you located, right? Because I think it doesn't fully matter, although it somewhat matters, right? And I think I know a lot of people who are promo people who decide to move somewhere else, and then they just do their promo work that they've established from wherever they are. And once again, I think, there are, well, okay, let's stay on the promo. Yes, I think promo is a very specific beast. And you have to understand that. The way I talk about promo is, all of the genres of voiceover. At the dojo, we talk about it like this. Okay, so in my estimation, doing your commercial demo and starting out, being prepared, what you need to do to prepare for a commercial demo allows you to know who you are and what you're bringing to the party. At this sort of, generally, I understand voiceover, I understand myself, I understand the game. And I make that the equivalent of getting your MD, right? So we all went to medical school. We all have these fundamental skills that we can do. If there's an issue, we know how to think it through. We have the skills to do some fundamental things that we call ourselves doctors or voiceover artists, right? And this once again, this is not applied to everyone. It's not that you have to have your commercials in if you just want to do one thing, So anyway, so there are exceptions to the rules, but in general, roll with this metaphor. Then each genre becomes a specialization. So if you went to medical school, you would be a doctor. And then you could decide to become a surgeon. And then you decide to become a neurosurgeon. Then you could decide to become a pediatric neurosurgeon who specializes in neonatal seizure disorders, right? So each one of those things builds upon the foundation that you have and the understanding of yourself and your understanding of the business. And then each different thing has specific skill sets and specific things that are required. And you can specialize within that, and you can specialize within that, and you can specialize within that. So of all of the things of voiceover, none of it's brain surgery, guys. It's just figuring out who you are and just getting relaxed and doing it. It's not brain surgery. But of the genres, promo is a really powerful concentration of having really profound connection skills, because you need to be able to do with one word, you need to tell an entire story. And Rebecca, you can probably attest to this with trailer work as well. You need to infuse all of the experience of being human into, and the emotion of the story into one word, so that it requires a very organic connection. And it's also extremely technical. There's like really specific things that you need to be able to deliver technically, both in terms of timing, in terms of and in terms of just technique of this needs to go up, this needs to come down, this needs to land. Right? So understanding all of that, understanding also that it is a supremely competitive game, right? Folks who break into promo like to stay doing promo. And also, I'll stop talking in a second, but also because because the way promo fits into the function of a network, the function of a radio station, the function of, there's a very specific and there's a lot at stake, and you fit into a machinery that you have to be able to have a schedule that you show up, that people can rely on you, and they know you can deliver fast. It's a lot of work, and you have to do a lot of work instantaneously. So when someone finds someone who can deliver on that way, we know we're gonna go with Joe, right? We're gonna go with Joe Cipriano. We're gonna go with these people who are proven, right? So it's kind of getting to the place where you become someone who's proven. So those are some of the things to keep in mind as you're going into promo. In terms of how to break into it, I would say, and I'll stop talking in a second. Really, find people who are teaching this at a level that can help you understand how to break down the work, understand the needs of the work, and then can also help guide you. I know I've done great work with Harry Dunn, who's a promo director at the CW, and he has a fantastic way that he approaches, how do you break this down, how do you practice it, and how do you start understanding how the business works. I personally, what's that?
Can I add something to what you just said,
Yeah.
Tish, about how Harry works? What's great is I always suggest studying with different people as well, because Harry's approach might work for you. Or there's Jody Gottlieb, Dave Walsh, Jeff Howell. They all have a different approach. And just as working with an acting teacher or a commercial VO teacher and whatnot, you'll find which approach works exact for you and what you're saying, Tish, your soul and who you are. And that connection, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I think so too. And understanding that there's lots of ways to skin a cat, right? There's lots of ways to do it, and you'll find so there's great people teaching this and knowing the business out there. So I would say figure out how to connect with those people, and look at it as an investment of how do you approach it. And I'm always for if you're going to go for it, then go for it. Let's work with the best and let's go for it, right? Dan, any insights promo wise?
Yeah, I mean, and both of you hit on it pretty well. This is an extremely competitive business. It's, there are not thousands and thousands of people doing promo, perhaps at the level that, some people are suggesting here. It's a handful of people that have worked and worked and worked and worked at it for years and years, that have mastered these skills, that are then given, as they say, the best jockeys get the best horses. That's really the metaphor that
That's
fits
an
here.
interesting.
Rebecca's been doing this for years and years and practicing for years and years, and she's earned her place there. Another point is while it is show business, it's not show business, it's business. And you've got to be a very skilled professional to be able to do this, which is why you only hear the best voices on trailer and promo work. So I don't want to discourage anybody. It's like, if this is your dream, if you think this is something you are good at, try it out. Go work with one of these coaches. Let's see if you have what it takes to make that happen. But it's very, very difficult when there are other areas of VO where it will be a lot easier to break in. And while you're doing that, you can also work on your promo stuff and, make that your dream if that's really what you want to do. Just realize that once you do it, it's extremely hard work. It creates some commitments that perhaps you may not find very comfortable in your lifestyle. And so look at it as, if someone says you are really good at this, then pursue it. If it's somebody who knows what they're talking about, how many times do we get on the elevator and you say, oh, I'm in voiceover. It's like, people tell me I have a great voice. And it's like, that's just fabulous.
So,
and to add to that.
Oh, no, go ahead.
To add one more quick thing to that, Tish, you touched upon this, and Kat reminded me as well, is really know that if you're working for the big networks and the big cable networks, that there are golden handcuffs. And if you're going on a vacation, if you're going on a cruise, you've got to be ready at any moment to drop it, because I've seen a lot of the other side of that business with promo and trailer. They really do have those deadlines. Like, they need something in an hour, and they will go to the next person. And I know somebody who was doing a campaign for a long time. They hit one thing where they're like, we need this right away. So I can't get it to you. They went to the next person, and then he took over that campaign for 6 months. So it's something to be aware of, looking inside yourself. Is that something you're willing to do? Because you will not have a true vacation for years.
Yeah, there's pros and cons. That being said, Matt, if you want it, go after it. Keep asking these questions. Let your team know.
Yes.
That you're interested. Get their insights. If you know people who work in the promo world or for TV stations, right? And I think we'll move on from this question, but radio imaging is promos for radio, which is a whole nother little specialty in your medical school thing, right? So that's a similar skill set, different beast, different way who you'd be contacting and what the skill sets there are. So so that hopefully that's helpful, Matt. If you have other questions, everybody, if you have more questions after this, I'm always available for 15-minute consultations and things like that. So awesome. Now we have so many questions, and we're taking. Let's keep on going. Okay, Catherine has a heart question. What has been your Rebecca? What has been your favorite proudest gig of your career so far? We want to hear you brag, inspire us. How about your worst and most embarrassing gig? So.
Okay. So I think my proudest gig really is, I remember the name, Captive State, was the trailer for that, because it was, the first female in 10 years, over 10 years. Just doing that alone, I was so proud of it. Really, I don't blast everything on social media that I do, but when it's something that I'm like, yes, that would be my proudest thing. There are more, but worst, most embarrassing gig. Oh goodness. There's a couple quick ones on this. One of my first, I started doing anime when I was living in Austin, Texas. So long time ago is when I first dabbled in. And one of my third job was a shower scene. And it was so awkward and so weird. And I had never, learning how to make those sounds was pretty embarrassing for the first time. Now if you do Walla and stuff like that, or even current animes and other dubbing stuff, which is becoming dubbing is becoming more. I'm like, okay, I know how to do this. I don't care. I'm not embarrassed anymore. But that one was whoa. I'm a klutz. So a two-parter on this. When I'm doing certain characters, I'll change my shoes. Sometimes I'll try to wear clothes. If it's a character I've been working on one that's kind of mean and catty, and it's not who my soul is. So I have to find a way to, make that work. So I would bring in this pair of heels, power heels. I don't wear heels, but it made a huge difference for me. Also, just that being uncomfortable. And I ended up falling and making a huge scene in the booth because I was getting into the thing, and boom, there that. And I had a similar thing with a session. I was going to a session, and I had a huge fall right outside of my car and couldn't move for a second. I was really stunned. I thought I was going to pass out. I didn't know what was going on. And this guy came and was like, "Are you okay? What's happening? Who are you? Blah, blah, blah." And then I was like, "You're my director, aren't you?" So it broke the ice, but whew, that was embarrassing. And I think my favorite piece of direction, not that it's you asked, but just because it's fun, I was talking about this yesterday, was, can you make the vomit sound more like a river of vomit and less like a stream? My life is good. I love my job.
Hilarious. Yeah, and then there's like all these little things that my mind go like, oh, there's if you're in Texas, there's an anime community in Austin. That's great. Also, other little lessons of, from the moment you walk from your car, you are in the studio, you are with clients, because that shit'll happen, right? Because what if Rebecca was totally a dick in her moment of crisis, and like, yeah, so yeah, those are great. Excellent. Yay. Ups and downs, we find our way through. Good. Charles asks another question about a book by Doug Lenard, Speaking with Skill. Personally, as I started to read it, it seems more oriented stage and screen. I am not familiar with the book. So Charles, I would say a couple of things. Is it worth the time and effort to grind through the 300 pages plus? Okay, so working with you a little bit, Charles, your diction and your speaking ability is not anything that you have to worry about. You're quite articulate. You have a lovely instrument. The things the things that you can work on to adjust to this medium is, how do you relax it? How do you make it like you're sharing, not reading? And you're in your way here. That's not something that happens from reading a book. That's something that happens from practicing and opening your mind. Anytime you say grind effort, don't do it. Like, if that's how it feels, then don't do it. There's lots of other books and lots of other ways to do it. So that would be mine. And then the more, there's our cerebral selves. And don't get me wrong, guys, you have to be super smart to do this work. Dumb people don't do voiceover. Sorry, it just requires too much. So one of the things is that it requires that you're super, super smart, and it requires that you don't drive the car from your brain. Your brain is for steering. Your heart and your gut are the fuel, is the gasoline, is the drive shaft. So reading books and it's important, but in my book not as important. So that would be my answer. Anything else to share about and again, not to say that reading books is not important, because there's so much great stuff out there and so much to explore, and you should always be you can always be, should is relative, I hate that word too, but you can always be like, ooh, what's this? But find the stuff that sparks you. If you're like, this seems really big and grind and then don't do it.
Library. The ancient library has a lot of stuff. Or go to the bookstore and sit on the floor for a while, a couple of pages, and see exactly if it sparks you. It's the same kind of thing of taking classes with different teachers. Different approaches to acting is plethora of them, and it feels like, I agree with you. Libraries.
Yeah. Dan, any insight about book learning versus doing learning?
Well, not being a voracious reader, even though I read for a living, there are a lot of books out there. And the great thing about books is you can put them down if you get bored with them, or it's not doing for you what you want it to do.
Or it's not time to read that book yet.
Right, exactly. You're going to find very specific books about voiceover, and you're going to find very specific books about business, and you're going to find very specific books about certain things. Pick them up, look at them. If it's something that seems to connect with you when you're reading the first paragraph or so, keep going. But everybody has their own vision of what voiceover is, and a lot of people in voiceover, they relate their experience. You're the only person that's you. Your voice is unique. How you do things is unique, and that is, in fact, the way you sell yourself as a voice actor is what's different about you. There are some very basic things to the business and how you go about getting work. And so having as many options as possible is really, really good. As Tony Robbins likes to say, you've got a toolkit of marketing, find the right tool that's going to work for you or in a specific situation, which is why it's good to have that reference material around. But it's still an experiential thing. It's something you've got to try. If it doesn't work, either adjust how you do it or try something else. So don't get hooked up on, I've got to read all these books. Because, if book learning is the thing for you, that's great. But for a lot of people, it's experiential is far, far more important.
Yeah, and that's the philosophy of the dojo. Like for me, the way of the dojo, the dojo means the place of the way. I and our dojo team are here to help you, to facilitate you finding your way, right? So we'll give you tools, but it's really about you finding your way, because it's you in the booth every day, right? And then the other thing is, the dojo metaphor is also about fight, stepping into the ring as a warrior. And you can't learn boxing from a book. And you can understand that this is a jab, but until you do it and then you perfect it and then you hit a bag and then you're also making sure that someone doesn't hit you while you use this to set up something else. Like you can't fully understand that. You can't also understand what it is to step in front of somebody dealing with what comes up in you when someone's going to hit, so it really is about stepping into the ring. You can't become a boxer from reading a book. So, yeah. Okay. Good. Jimmy has some tech questions here. These aren't questions, they're statements. Okay. Did you have a question, or was there something that Dan can share insights on, Jimmy?
Well, he was making some comments on some equipment. He was like, I also have the WA87 month. I'm getting the Lewitt 540, and it's like, and I went in there, why?
He just said, actually, these aren't questions. So.
Yeah, well, they aren't. But as a question, if you are a geek, fabulous. Geeks don't hire voice talent. If you want to geek out about your equipment because you say, I got this, I got that, this is not the reason you get voice work. The Lewitt is not the reason you get voice work. If you think that you're trying to satisfy your own ears, just realize that you don't hire you, and that it's more important that somebody who actually knows what it's supposed to sound like actually hears your audio. Because I'm going to get this and I'm going to get this is wasting time not going, how do I read this? How do I interpret this copy? And how do I become a better voice actor? It's not the equipment, guys.
Yeah. So it's, once again, if your love goes here, just make sure you're loving that and focusing on the things that are really the crux, and making sure that all of this thing, once again, not knocking being as proficient as possible as you want to be in audio engineering, because it is a part of the game. It is definitely a part of the game. And you feeling comfortable and you feeling knowledgeable and you being able to bandy about the terms and know how to talk about it is really important. We just want to make sure that it's not stopping you from the other stuff. And also that you don't get into gearhead, I gotta hit her, right? Yeah. Good. So if there's an actual question, Jimmy, something we can help you with, let us know. And and the great thing, Jimmy, is that you've got it going on. I know being a voiceover actor in New York is its own specific challenge, noise-wise. It's not an unchallenging thing. So excellent. Okay, let's see what we got here. Shelley, from Texas, also lived in Hoboken and New York, now in SoCal. Radio for most of her life. This is, Dan, you might be able to share some insights here. Want to entertain the idea of full-time VO, taking classes, not feeling overwhelmed. Yep, it's good. Take it easy. You don't learn to be a boxer. You don't step into a bout in Vegas after your first class at the Equinox. Specific steps. So the things I'm getting this is skill and mastery in different markets, from a medium that is related, like sort of a cousin of voiceover, right? Radio broadcast is sort of a cousin of voiceover. All the skills that you have from it are going to serve you. The rules are a little different, and how we do it at this family is tiny different, but you're still family, right? entertain the idea of full-time VO, excellent. Then entertain the idea of understanding any business is going to take a little bit to get going, so it's going to be a process. Overwhelm, yep, it's there's a lot out there, and figuring out how to get going. And in terms of what I would suggest, the whole dojo is here for exactly that. So I'd love to talk to you about what we're doing here in terms of the whole journey. And then I would say just set a budget, find people that resonate with you, and take it from there. How about you guys, Rebecca, Dan?
I understand the overwhelming part. When I started out, it felt like I had to do everything now. And I think it's important, going back to what I was saying in the beginning, which is to remember nobody went and did everything now, that it really is just one step at a time. I think setting goals is really important. I'm part, and actually finding a group or an accountability buddy, or stand-up group. I have a few. We have a stand-up group. We meet once a week. We go over, these are my goals for the week. This is what I accomplished last week. This is what I didn't accomplish. Why didn't you accomplish? Because of this barrier and this barrier and this barrier. So you have a hive mind, a group that can help you get through those steps. With an accountability buddy, you can make those goals and then break them down into tiny, tiny steps. Like you can't just say, I want a demo. Well, what are the steps to get a demo? You need to find out who producers are. Then you need to interview, talk to some of those producers, see who you jive with. There's steps to everything. And instead of thinking at it as, I'm going to do this full time, baby steps, goals, accountability buddies, and stand-up groups are my basic thing for getting overwhelmed.
Yeah. And also
sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
And not comparing, again, I go back to this, like Teddy Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. I think that's all it was. And that's important to remind yourself when you're getting overwhelmed, that everyone has to take the baby steps, and don't compare yourself to where everybody is in their career.
Yeah. And I also talk about this whole process of becoming a working pro voiceover as a gestation period, right? So there's a spark. Everybody, most folks on this call, some have just are on the call. It never occurred to me, whoa, what is this? It's the spark, right? And then there's the conception, right? And that's where you start taking actions. And then there's a way that it forms, but you can't push it, right? You can want your baby to be paying your mortgage at 6 months, but you can induce birth, but it might not have lungs, and it might not. It's going to be in NICU for 3 months. So little bit, but yeah. So yes, it's good. And Dan, what to add?
Yeah, well, the thing about radio, here's a real distinct thing about radio. When you're in radio, you're working for somebody else. You have hours, you show up, you do what you do, and it's like, here's a script, go do it. Voiceover is, I got out of radio, 30 years ago, and really haven't worked for anybody since. Again, it's a business. You've got to learn the business of being in the business. If you think you have the talent, you've got the skills, the business becomes the more important part, because the skills are something should be second nature, like riding a motorcycle. If you're someone who likes to ride a motorcycle, it's got to become part of you, and it takes years to learn that. But radio is not voiceover. There is making commercials and that sort of thing. And again, people say I have a great voice for radio. That's fabulous. But voiceover is not about your voice so much as it is you. If you're a good actor, what your voice sounds like doesn't mean anything. You just got to find out what's unique about your voice and be you, and learn the other voice acting techniques that go with that. Because in radio, it's like, all right, I'd say, so-and-so, they're having a picnic this Saturday, and here's the weather for Greater Metro, that sort of thing. You're just ripping reading, and voiceover is not that at all. It's a totally different concept. If you have the technical background in voiceover, or in radio and doing production, that's a slight help, but you don't take what came from radio and apply it to basic voiceover today. It's a very different business.
Well, and I think that, you know, there's things that you learn in being a broadcaster that are different goals and different reasons and different techniques of how you convey information, and you're not necessarily a part of it, right? So it's taking those skills and applying them to this medium. And then understanding there's going to be a little transition too. And this segues to anonymous attendee, who has an interesting question, and then we'll finish up with Christina. We're racing down the wire like an NPR fundraiser here. But okay. So Anonymous says, everyone says to be successful at voiceover, you have to have acting experience and improv experience. I inherently cringe when people use such generalizations because there's a million ways to be successful. But can you please tell me how important you think improv and or acting chops are? Okay, so this is something near and dear to my heart, my love, Anonymous, because the way we approach things at the dojo, as I said, the foundational principle is voiceover is communication. Communication is an exchange of vibrational energy. So that's something we all do since we were pre-verbal, right? We were babies, we needed something, we said something, someone responded, right? So that's something you don't have to be an actor. Now, what I find in, if you have been an actor, then you've built your muscles and you've spent time developing skills that are very helpful in terms of, oh, let's imagine this and then I'll do it, right? So there's stuff that's fluid just because you've spent, you know, Rebecca's been doing this since she was a little girl. You know, when did you start becoming an actor, right? You have this muscle, this fluidity of, you know, this facility in some of the things that are helpful in being a voice actor. Now, what I find in working with like supremely trained, like really, really theater trained voiceover actors, oftentimes what we need to do is bring them back, right? Because you go like, here's the spec, 10 to 98 to 98, male or female, warm, friendly. And supremely trained actors are like, okay, but what do they want? I mean, because I could be a Portuguese pirate with one leg and swimming underwater, and it's like, really, they want you. And then a lot of times we're like, okay, well, the whole reason I got into this is I don't really like me. I don't really like being me. So I've developed all these skills to not be me. And so that people who are supremely trained as actors, oftentimes coming to this work, we just have to, really just you. Love you. It's okay. So I don't adhere. I think that improv is good for every human being, and the things that you learn as an improv actor are applicable to everything, and particularly voiceover, because you have to be nimble-minded and then boom, make a decision and commit to it. So I'm more about the human element. Developing your skills with the acting stuff will come. So how about you guys? What do you think?
I agree with you, Tish. I think, you know, you're always bringing yourself. And as a, you know, highly trained actor, I had a problem with commercial stuff in the beginning of just being myself. Oh, I have to, okay. I'm uncomfortable. However, I find when I'm working in animation and video games, and like I mentioned this earlier, myself is not a bitch. I'd like to think I'm not, except at times. And that's where I need to reach into my acting training when I'm playing the characters and sometimes I get characters that are totally me, and that's great. But when you reach into those characters that you're not, I've never worked in the military, so what can I substitute? What can I figure out that, okay, I'm military. And you use your own life to help you with that stuff, but you also need to be able to reach into your other pockets, as it were. I think for specifically with animation and video games, commercial, I think from my point of view, commercial is be yourself. That's who you are.
Yeah. Thoughts, Dan? And then we'll finish up with Christina's. Well, we've got two more things if we have time. So,
Yeah, there's not much to add to that. Rebecca really, really cuts that, down to what it's really about.
yeah.
You've really just got to be you. And improv is something that I think, I suck at it, and Rebecca has seen me do it. So,
Improv terrifies me. Are you kidding?
yeah, it's improv is one of those things that you should try and practice because it helps you when you are trying to be innovative and learn how not to have any fear when you're auditioning for something. It's like, take a chance, do it like a pirate. Just see what happens, or do it with a Russian accent. It just makes you loosen up, and that's really the importance of doing improv. And and letting your inner subconscious come out, because that's really where your creative side is.
Yeah. So I think that it's not necessary, but it can't hurt. If you find yourself in a place with your work where you think, oh, it would be really cool if I knew how to break down a scene or go there emotionally or something like that, then go for it, explore it, add it to your training. But you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to. I agree with that.
Yeah. Just as long as you're showing up in your voiceover work, that's okay. Let's see. We're a little bit over, so why don't we close up, and then if Dan and Rebecca have a couple more minutes to finish these questions.
Sure.
So in terms of, we'll kind of wrap up and make sure everybody knows how to reach us and all of those things, and then we'll take just a couple more minutes and finish these sort of heartfelt questions at the end. If you can stay, that's great. So in terms of getting in touch with the dojo, www.thevodojo.com is where you reach us. You can sign up for a voiceover once-over call. It's a 15 minutes. Right now it's with me. But anything else you want to talk about here, and talk about the things we've got going on. One of the things in terms of, Rebecca was talking about accountability and stuff. If you are, and it seems like a lot of you are more on in the process, right? Having demos, having representation booking. In addition to you should do voiceover intensive. Next one is coming up in November in live in LA. That's our foundations. Laying down the foundations of how we work here. There's the 14-month Mystery to Mastery program. So wherever you are in your development, that's the going into full training part. And then the thing that I wanted to share with you is we have the Nth Degree program, which is for working pros. So people coming out of the Mystery to Mastery and making their way into the working pro world, but it's also for people who are out there and want a place to anchor their accountability. We do actions, we create a group atmosphere, and we also have workouts, weekly workouts in addition. So Nth Degree, and then we also have the VO Dojo Pro Fight Club. Working Pro Workout brings together top-notch talent with the decision makers who hire us. So next up is Michael Surix, who is an amazing video game director from.
Oh, he's great! I got to work with him. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's so good. So those are things. That's all on the website. Dan, you've put in VOBS and also
Voiceoverstudio.com. Yeah.
Yep.
Where I can consult with you and help you build a studio from ground up, and that doesn't mean windows and guitars hanging from the wall. And you should also watch Voiceover Body Shop,
yes.
Which is on Facebook and on our at VOBS.tv, because we talk to great people like Rebecca. Beck, you want to be on the show?
Sure.
Okay, all right, good. And then George Whittam and I talk about home voiceover studio tech and sort of geeky stuff, and he gets geeky and I say don't get geeky.
Yeah, it's kind of like Siskel and Ebert, if anyone's
it's a balancing act.
Remember that. Good. And Rebecca, you've put your own social media handles and Postcard for Kindness. Yeah.
You can reach out if you have any questions. I am all about, like I said, giving back. And when I started, people were really generous with their time and energy and helping me. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out. And if for some reason I don't get back to you, it means you probably ended up in spam. Feel free to bug me again. It's okay. Or send me a message on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah. And just as closing, and we'll finish up with the last questions. I would say this month, see how you can give some of your heart. Like, what can you do?
Yes.
What can you, in your voiceover voiceover career, to give part of your heart? And whether that's action or volunteering somewhere or helping somebody else. But just, I think it really is, I think one of the things that distinguishes this profession from others, particularly in the performance realm, is that the ethics of the voiceover world is from the heart, giving back. We're all in this together. So as you're stepping into it, or you're finding your way in it, the more we can all embrace that and be a part of that. That's what keeps this the vibrant, wonderful journey that it is, even through the hard parts.
And you can also, if you want to give back in another way, learning ally, you can come up and you can read books for I think it's for the blind and for kids and things like that. And you can volunteer your time, and they'll also help you with your studio and stuff like that a little bit. They'll give you a check of what to do to improve.
Yeah.
That's
There's all kinds of things. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. Gosh, we're really late. All right. Well, let's answer these questions really quick. If you need to roll down, I know we're meeting in a second, but if you guys have a second to
yeah, I can stay. Sure.
Let's explore Christina's here. So Christina's a dojo member, and she's just stepping out. Let's see. Fallen head over heels in love with voiceover, which is important. I think the more you can do that, then you can get through anything, through better or for worse, sickness and in health. If you find that heart connection, you know why I do love voiceover? Because I love it. I love it. I love it. Nourishing your soul when nothing seems to be happening. In acting, it feels like I'm failing and a vicious cycle because casting people are not getting to know me. I'm not getting to exercise my muscles. I assume it's similar with VO. What do you do to remind yourself that you are not, in fact, a failure, specifically in VO, and how to get yourself out there if you don't have an agent or not getting auditions through your agent, even though you do have one? Mm-hmm.
That is a great question. Mm-hmm. For me, I have been in your position. I have often thought of myself as a failure, or that I don't belong here with these people. And yeah, that is hard. That is hard. First, I'll let you know you're not alone with that. One of the things that I do where I am now, and I have wonderful love and support, and my husband reminds me of this when I'm like, which is okay, feel the feels. He reminds me, look at where you were 10 years ago when you decided you wanted to do that. You wanted to do this. Look at where you were 9 years ago when you decided you want to do this. And you had some jobs in that year. Yeah, you were learning everything and whatnot, but you had a few jobs. Then look at where you were, for me, again, personalizing, in your 8th year. Go through the 6 months. And you, by doing that, even if you've only been at it a few years, but it seems like, Christina, you've been doing theater and you have that background, you've been working in that industry. I feel like it's the exact same thing of, oh, right, I'm more now than I was then. And it's hard to compare yourself from, year 10 to year 9.5 when things are really crappy and nothing's going on. But then you remember where you started and where you are now.
Beautiful.
There's always a progression. There always is. And when you feel like you're a failure, go back and look at that and remind yourself, oh, I'm not, because I am accomplishing things. And again, it just goes back to that stuff of those peaks and valleys. And I think when you get overwhelmed, that's when you need to look back and see what you've done at that point.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're from LA, Christina. Does she live in Los Angeles?
She's originally from Germany, lived in New York for many years, and has been in LA for 1 year, right? Right, Christina?
Oh, great.
God, you've done a shit ton in a year, baby.
I mean, that's amazing. And you're working with the VO Dojo already, which is fantastic. So you're getting out there. There are lots of places in LA that you can also do a different approach. Tish, I love what you're doing with me on Dojo. Love it. But look into other places that you can study. You can meet the casting directors that are out there. If you're union, they have free voiceover workshops at the Del Monfontaine Voiceover Lab. Sign up for the SAG Foundation, take an orientation there, and you've got free workshops. And you can use their booths for free as well. And exercise, find copy online, form a workout group. If you're not doing, Tish, I'm sorry, I don't know if you do that or not.
It's all good. I mean, one of the principles of the dojo is when you get to work, like dojo is always home. Come back. We are here for you. We are always here for you. And as you get to brown belt, I'm like, and go meet other people. See ya.
Yeah, when you're ready.
Come back and bring what you're doing. It's essential. It's essential.
Because you never stop learning either. Like I'm always taking classes all the time. I just started taking another improv class because it terrifies me. You're never done. And that's actually another answer to your questions. When you are getting overwhelmed, take another class. Fill your time. Go online and, say, today I'm just going to learn more for free by going online and watching iSpot for commercials. If you want to practice dubbing, watch Netflix and turn on the subtitles. Look up on YouTube. Video game cutscenes. You can always learn when you're not making your money and working. You're still working.
Yeah, and then I'll finish up. One of the images that I talk about at the dojo is if the top of the mountain is a sustained, successful voiceover career, then we have to understand sea level to summit, right? And I think it goes back, Rebecca. I think what you're saying is that what you just talked about is how do you make sure you don't think of yourself as a failure, is you look at all the steps that you have taken and how far up the mountain you are. And then the next day you take another step and you take another step and you take another step. And then there's peaks and valleys. So you might get up here and then, whoa, there might be a whole new thing. The key is knowing that you have the skills to be an experienced mountaineer, so you can weather any storm. You can see it coming, ideally, or you might get caught in a blizzard and stuck in a bivouac and have to hunker down for a little bit because you didn't see it, but now you know. So make sure you have the mountaineering skills, because getting to the top of the mountain is the goal, and staying there for as long as we can and being able to handle whatever comes. That's the real voiceover professional. It's not, oh, I got a campaign, now I've arrived. Because guess what? Campaigns ends, babies. You got to get the other one. So, yeah. Well, hopefully that's helpful. And I love that we're kind of finishing with that. I think maybe Rebecca, you can type. Well, why don't you type an answer to Brianna? I think we're done because just answer Brianna. We're closed up. Brianna's question is, I'm curious to know about a time when you discovered a character and it surprised you.
Oh that's such a hard question, actually. Wow. I think it's the first time I discovered the villainous hard ass. It was actually in a class. And it was with Wes Gleason. And he said, what do you guys want to work on? I said, I want to work on more grounded, real, badass women. And he directed me into a place, not just mentally and physically, but vocally, because it came from the physicality and the mental part of it that I didn't even know I could do. And I had someone else's direction to really help me there, and to see that part was in me, that I could be that woman. And I didn't know I could be that woman. And
that's very cool.
And opening up the door to other characters like that. This one dubbing company keeps bringing me in for that woman, and I'm like, what's happening? And I love it. I love it.
I think that's a great place to close, because all of this work will be opening. I always call it like, whoa, that's a whole nother wing of the mansion that we've just discovered, right? That exploration that you went of going, I don't know, is this in me? And then you open this whole other wing of the mansion, both in your business, but in yourself. Like, and the more we can keep on having this holistic understanding of the beauty of this art form and this business that requires so much of us, but we're always going to be opening up to something new in us, and then that becomes part of the thing that goes forward. And each level that we hit, there's going to be a new thing of fears and I don't know-ness, and that's all going to happen. So we are a full quarter of an hour over. I like to keep tight on time because I'm not really known for that. But this has been really important, and I think we've come on a really nice journey here. Let's see, there is a replay of this. If you're signed up for this, there's a replay. If anybody else wants to, we can always get them this. Dan, thank you so much for being here. Rebecca, what a joy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
We do the Ask the Sensei the first Wednesday of every month at 10 o'clock Pacific time for 1 hour or 1 hour and 15 minutes. We'd love to have you back. Always here to answer questions for you, and tell your friends. We'll look forward to seeing you guys soon and talking with you soon. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Toodaloo.